Apple and McDonald's, two of the most recognized American brands across the globe, are facing a striking downturn in a market they once seemed poised to dominate: China. In a country that represents not only one of the largest consumer bases on Earth, but also one of the fastest evolving economies, the sheen of Western prestige appears to be fading. Once welcomed with open arms and long lines, these brands now find themselves struggling to retain relevance in an environment that has changed dramatically over the past decade. What was once viewed as fertile ground for American enterprise has become a fierce arena where local champions are rising, global dynamics are shifting, and consumer loyalty is being redefined. The story unfolding isn't just about two companies, it's about a sweeping transformation in global commerce. As China moves from being the world's factory floor to a powerhouse of innovation and self-sufficiency, the very nature of consumer behavior and business success is changing with it. It's not just that Apple's market share is shrinking, or that McDonald's is losing foot traffic. It's that the entire script of what it means to succeed in China, and increasingly in the world, is being rewritten. Just a decade ago, American products were viewed in China as symbols of aspiration and quality. Owning an iPhone or eating at McDonald's was, in many ways, a cultural marker of modernity and global belonging. But today, Chinese consumers are increasingly turning inward, favoring domestic brands that feel more authentic, more responsive to local needs, and more in tune with national pride. What was once admiration has morphed into independence. The allure of imported prestige is giving way to a homegrown sense of confidence. China's internal transformation has been rapid and deliberate. The country that once leaned heavily on imports and Western expertise now stands at the forefront of technological and commercial innovation. Companies that were once dismissed as mere copycats, Huawei, Xiaomi, Luckin Coffee, are now trailblazers in their own right. These brands are not just surviving against international competition. They are outperforming it, shaping consumer habits and technological trends not only in China, but increasingly across global markets. A recent report from Bloomberg highlights this new wave of Chinese excellence. Huawei, once in the shadow of global tech giants, is now a dominant force in 5G technology. Xiaomi and Oppo have built loyal customer bases with smartphones that match or exceed the performance of Apple's offerings, often at half the price. Luckin Coffee has emerged as a serious threat to Starbucks by reimagining coffee culture through the lens of Chinese convenience, pricing strategy, and digital fluency. These brands understand Chinese consumers because they are built by them, for them. This isn't just an economic story, it's a cultural shift. According to a 2023 Global Times survey, over 70% of Chinese consumers now prefer local brands over foreign ones. That's a staggering reversal from a time when American brands were seen as the gold standard. It's no longer just about features, price tags, or aesthetics. It's about values, identity, and belonging. China's dual circulation economic model, which emphasizes domestic consumption and technological self-reliance, has laid the groundwork for this shift. It's not just policy, it's a new mindset, deeply rooted in both pride and pragmatism. Cost is a key factor driving this evolution. Apple, once the epitome of high-end desirability, is increasingly viewed as overpriced in a market where consumers are becoming more cost-conscious. Chinese alternatives like Xiaomi and Huawei deliver equivalent performance at more accessible prices. A McKinsey study found that 62% of Chinese consumers now prioritize value for money over brand prestige. This is not to say luxury is irrelevant. It's just that luxury is being redefined, not by Western standards, but by local expectations. Yet price alone doesn't tell the whole story. Younger consumers, especially those under 35, are also reevaluating what quality means. Many now view Chinese products as not only good enough, but in some cases superior to foreign alternatives. A survey from Statista reveals that more than half of Chinese millennials and Gen Z consumers trust domestic brands as much or more than global ones. And this trust is reinforced by performance, design, innovation, and a sense of cultural alignment. These products don't just serve a function, they reflect identity. But perhaps the most profound force at work here is nationalism. In the face of growing geopolitical tensions, particularly between the US and China, consumer loyalty is taking on a more emotional and political dimension. When Huawei was targeted by US sanctions, Chinese consumers responded not by turning away, but by rallying behind the company. Its domestic market share surged, not just because of technical merits, but because purchasing a Huawei device became a statement of solidarity. It became personal. Xiao Qin, a consumer behavior specialist at Tsinghua University, describes this phenomenon as value alignment. For many young Chinese, buying a local brand isn't merely a transaction. It's an expression of belief, a choice to support national innovation, and a quiet defiance against foreign pressure. That sentiment has only grown stronger as geopolitical rifts widen. A recent South China Morning Post survey found that nearly 80% of young Chinese consumers now actively prefer to buy domestic products as a way of supporting the national economy and resisting outside influence. For them, shopping is a form of citizenship. This surge in patriotic consumption is coinciding with a broader economic challenge, the rising cost of living. Cities like Beijing and Shanghai have seen household expenses rise sharply in recent years. A China Daily report noted a 15% increase in the cost of housing and consumer goods since 2022. In such a climate, consumers are forced to make smarter choices. Price consciousness and national pride are converging, and foreign brands that fail to adjust are increasingly left out. American brands, once the embodiment of global cool, now face a crisis of relevance. McDonald's and Starbucks, for example, were once seen as aspirational spaces, symbols of a cosmopolitan modern lifestyle. Today, they are competing against brands like Luckin Coffee, which offer similar products at a lower price, tailored more closely to local tastes, and delivered through tech-savvy, app-first ecosystems. Luckin has seized market share not just by cutting costs, but by reinventing the experience to fit seamlessly into the lives of Chinese consumers. And so a new reality is emerging. The dominance of Western brands in China is no longer a given. The rules have changed. Success in China now requires more than legacy, logo, or Western cachet. It demands deep local understanding, cultural sensitivity, pricing agility, and value alignment. For American companies used to being on top, the challenge is no longer just competing on technology or design. It's about remaining relevant in a nation that is increasingly confident, self-reliant, and proudly turning inward. What's happening in China isn't just a regional trend, it's a glimpse of the future. As China continues to shape the next phase of global commerce and culture, the world may begin to follow suit. The rise of local giants, the demand for value, the fusion of economics and identity, these forces are not unique to China. They are signals of a shifting global tide. And for brands that once ruled the world stage, the message is clear: adapt or be left behind. Luckin Coffee has seen a remarkable 30% surge in market share over the past year, a shift attributed to its sharp focus on affordability and its ability to attract value-conscious consumers in China. As economic pressures mount and the cost of living continues to rise, Chinese consumers are increasingly prioritizing cost-effective choices. This affordability-driven approach has proven especially effective in a landscape where pragmatic consumption is becoming the norm. Jing Zheng, an economist at Shanghai University of Finance and Economics, highlights that Chinese consumers, especially in times of financial stress, are highly pragmatic and unafraid to choose local brands if they offer better value for money. The preference is no longer automatically skewed toward foreign labels. It's driven by quality, relevance, and above all, affordability. At the same time, foreign companies are encountering a more complex and restrictive regulatory environment in China. Over the past several years, the Chinese government has introduced sweeping policy changes that have redefined the rules of engagement for international firms. These include stringent data localization laws that mandate foreign tech giants like Apple and Tesla to store Chinese user data on local servers, a requirement that adds layers of operational complexity. Apple, for instance, had to undertake a massive overhaul of its data infrastructure within China, a project that Bloomberg estimates cost the company millions. According to Xiaoxing, a policy analyst at China Economic Review, these aren't mere bureaucratic formalities. They represent fundamental shifts in how the Chinese state interacts with foreign business. Compliance is no longer a minor hurdle, it's a major cost center. As foreign firms grapple with these growing regulatory demands, their local counterparts, who aren't subject to the same external restrictions, are gaining a competitive edge, both in agility and cost efficiency. Meanwhile, sustainability has emerged as a defining concern, particularly for the younger generation of Chinese consumers. Environmental awareness is rising rapidly, with many viewing climate change as one of the greatest threats to their future. A Greenpeace China study reveals that a striking 72% of consumers under the age of 30 actively seek out brands that show a strong commitment to environmental responsibility. This evolving mindset has forced foreign companies to not only offer environmentally friendly products, but also to embed sustainability into their core identity. Superficial gestures are no longer enough. Starbucks, for example, has pledged to power all its outlets in China with renewable energy by 2030, a bold commitment that has resonated deeply with young, eco-conscious consumers. Li Ming, a sustainability expert at Beijing Normal University, notes that green strategies must go beyond marketing buzzwords. They need to be integrated into the brand's operations and values. Foreign brands that fail to meet these increasingly high expectations risk alienating a growing and influential segment of the market. Equally important is the emotional connection that brands build with their audience. In China's highly competitive and culturally nuanced market, success requires more than just functional excellence. It demands emotional resonance. American companies, in particular, must make a concerted effort to understand and respect Chinese customs, values, and social dynamics. Emotional storytelling and cultural relevance have become essential components of brand strategy. Apple, for example, has launched several highly acclaimed campaigns in China that revolve around Chinese New Year, using poignant narratives that highlight family ties and tradition. These emotionally charged stories do more than sell products. They build trust and deepen loyalty. Alex Zheng, a marketing professor at Renmin University, points out that Chinese consumers are highly responsive to brands that acknowledge and celebrate their cultural identity. Campaigns that align with key cultural moments like the Mid-Autumn Festival or Spring Festival often enjoy stronger engagement and long-term brand attachment. The importance of cultural sensitivity is also evident in the fast food sector. McDonald's, which has operated in China since the early 1990s, has evolved significantly to stay competitive in this complex market. Over the years, it has shifted from offering a standardized Western menu to one that reflects the diverse tastes of Chinese consumers. Today, nearly 60% of McDonald's menu in China is customized to local preferences, including regional rice dishes, spicy options, and ingredients tailored to local palates. But the company hasn't stopped there. It has also embraced China's fast-paced digital transformation, implementing AI-powered kiosks and facial recognition payment systems to create a seamless, tech-enhanced customer experience. In a market where consumers are deeply embedded in the digital ecosystem, these innovations are not merely conveniences, they're critical differentiators. Technological innovation in China is a central driver of consumer behavior. Mobile payments, algorithm-driven personalization, and interactive digital marketing have become baseline expectations for modern Chinese shoppers. Platforms like WeChat and Douyin are not just social media, they're complete ecosystems for commerce, communication, and brand engagement. A report from the China Internet Network Information Center shows that 99% of Chinese internet users are active on mobile devices, underscoring the importance of mobile-first strategies. Foreign companies that fail to keep pace with this level of digital fluency risk falling behind. Starbucks has addressed this by partnering with WeChat to integrate ordering and delivery into the app's daily use. Similarly, Nike has developed AI-powered applications that offer personalized product suggestions based on browsing history and purchase behavior. Grace Zhou, a digital commerce consultant at Shanghai Partners, emphasizes that in China, a robust digital strategy is no longer a differentiator. It's a fundamental requirement for doing business. Regional adaptation is another critical piece of the puzzle. China is not a monolith. It is a country of vast cultural, economic, and linguistic diversity. What works in Beijing might fall flat in Chengdu or Shenzhen. Brands that take the time to understand and adapt to these regional nuances are more likely to build lasting relationships with their customers. Coca-Cola has done this effectively by tailoring not only its marketing campaigns, but also its product flavors to suit local tastes. In some regions, it has even introduced entirely new products that are unavailable elsewhere in the world. Social media and storytelling have become essential tools in this hyper-local strategy. Platforms like Xiaohongshu, Little Red Book, WeChat, and Douyin provide brands with powerful channels to engage directly with consumers, share their values, and create interactive narratives that go beyond transactional relationships. As China continues to evolve, both economically and socially, the pressure on foreign companies to remain agile and responsive will only intensify. The new era of consumer expectations is shaped by a potent mix of financial pragmatism, environmental consciousness, cultural pride, and digital savvy. For American companies operating in China, long-term success will depend on their ability to internalize and respond to these shifts holistically. They must move beyond transactional thinking and toward building meaningful, sustained engagement. Ultimately, the ongoing transformation of China's consumer market is more than a challenge. It's a global signal. The experiences of American giants like Apple, Starbucks, and McDonald's serve as a case study for companies around the world. China is not just another market. It's a bellwether of the future of global business. Its growing influence on the international stage will continue to shape the strategies of companies worldwide. Those that adapt intelligently, respectfully, and swiftly will find themselves at the forefront of a new global order. Those that don't may simply be left behind. The question for the world's businesses is no longer whether to adapt, but how fast they can do it, because China isn't waiting.